The last person you should shoot is the bard.
No, that's the first motherfucker I'm shooting.
No way. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
You're going to have... Everybody else is like, annoying. Because you have the priest of a religion that you're not a part of. You have the angsty rogue. You have the, like, Chad paladin. He's also a priest, I guess. It's
Chad priest.
You have the, like...
Chad priest.
I'm going to pray to God.
I'm just thinking of, like, the elves. The elves are always, like, the Lord of the Ring elves who are, like, very high and mighty, and, like, I can't get
I'm
my
not
cool
shoes
enough
wet.
for them, and it's really annoying, and it's not fun to be around.
I'm going to walk on top of the snow.
Okay.
I mean, it's like they didn't have access to like a Walkman or a jukebox or something like that. So I mean, that was the
Exactly.
traveling karaoke station. You know, it was a good time, especially at night when everybody got blackout drunk every single night after you slayed monsters. You just wanted to jam and to sing.
And you wanted somebody who was just as instigating as you are to do it.
And they're the most randy people. So if you ever want to exit town stage left, you just stick the bard on the random handmaiden, and then you'll get chased out of town.
Here's what I'm imagining. There's an inn, stormy night,
Love it so far.
and there I am at a table by myself, having an ale and a stew of whatever it is that they're serving. The door opens.
He's contemplating
A man
the
steps in.
constellations.
No, I've been working all day. This is the old timey. There is no contemplating. I don't have time to think.
You're literally,
No thought experiments.
You've got the long stare from the war.
Yeah. Bard steps.
PTSD of your day.
Yeah. No,
It's
there
been
is
a
no
long day of thinking, and he just can't handle it.
There is no
I'm just
thinking.
thinking like Rand's dad from
Tam?
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a sword master,
Wheel
and
of Time.
he's just like sitting at the table, just like, fuck, I just want to have a nice meal. Come on, guys. All right, stage is set.
Yeah.
In walks a guy.
Mysterious.
Who you let live.
Yes.
This is the one guy you let live.
No. And he sets
He's
down.
beholden to you. He owes you one.
He sets down a case.
Let him tell the story.
Everybody's looking.
What's in this case?
He
Let him tell the story.
unlatches one side,
What's in the box?
unlatches the other, slowly opens it, and he pulls out a goddamn lute.
I was gonna say, and he takes out his fiddle, and the ladies swoon.
I'm actually really impressed that you said the word loot and you know, I mean, I assume you know what a loot is.
I pound
you
my
really?
drink and jump into the goddamn fire. I would rather burn to death than listen to whatever goddamn song he's got to sing. I don't care what it is. And I'm burning my money with me.
You're
you
not
get
just
no
gonna
tip.
leave
Your
the
money's
town.
made of metal. It's staying around.
Jumping
No,
in the fire.
the long stare finally got to him, and he's just like, I can't handle another freaking song.
The bard is like, I also appreciate tips, but I mean, sacrifices are okay too.
So this is the background.
Here's my review of your song.
So
I
this
call this one Blood for the Blood God.
so Juan, this is your background for your next D&D character. You're gonna play a bard.
Oh my god!
Damn.
I'm so
That would be
excited.
awesome, wouldn't it?
He's gonna jump into a fire before the first D&D
He's like,
session.
oh no, oops, fell into the pit of obvious spikes.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to the Dog-Eared Discourse podcast, a nerdy little double date where we talk about the book we're reading and where we left off. Every month, we're pulling a new and exciting book from our shelf, and we've broken them down so you can buddy read with us or just hang out while we discuss, predict, and nerd out. My name is Danny, and if you want to read along, right now we are reading Among Others by Joe Walton.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm going to jump in really quick with a trigger warning. This book does handle issues of sexual assault, so if that is something you are sensitive to, just be aware that that is involved here.
All right, so I'm going to mention some of the main characters in the book. Our main character is Morwenna, and she has a identical twin, and they both are called Mor, but she's only briefly mentioned in the very first section. Another main character is their evil mother. Her mother's dad is called Grandpa, and her father is Daniel Markova, and her father's dad's name is Sam. And she makes some friends, and they are called Deidre, Sharon, and Gil. And there is a fairy who is a main character.
Glorfindel.
Glorfindel. Thanks, Chris. Speaking of, Chris, do you want to give the 60-second synopsis on this book?
Sure.
The first half of this book.
One.
I got the timer up, Chris.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
So there's these twins, and they figured out that magic can happen, and they're friends with fairies. One of them dies, and then the other one gets crippled and sent to a school where there's stupid cows because she runs away to her dad. She really hates this school, but she reads a lot of books. She doesn't really know that much about what's going on with people, but she says that, fairies aren't real, but fairies are real, but
30 seconds.
Other people can't really see them. She reads a lot. She goes to the library a lot, and she reads a lot. There's a lot of mentions of other books. She explains a lot about the houses and how the forms and houses work in this.
15.
She gets a library card so she can read more, and then she goes to the
10.
She goes to the bookstore where she can read even more, and she gets into this
5.
great book club where she likes
3,
a lot of people.
2,
And
1.
that's where we end.
Great job. Great job.
She reads so much.
It's very inspirational.
It is. That was great.
How much does she read? Like, did anybody count the number of mentions in
I
this?
did not count, but I was growing increasingly frustrated with all these different characters, and so I was reading, and I'm like, "Who is this? Who is this character?" I could go back a little bit, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a character from another book." That's why. That's why I can't find any mention of him here.
So funny story. So after we had all read the first half of this book, Kelly texted me saying that we should try to pick up some of these book recommendations that Mor, main character, is reading in this book. And I was like, that's a great idea. I mean, she sounds like she's well versed in the sci-fi fantasy genre, and that's what we're reading in this podcast.
So Danny was like, you should probably start writing down the ones that you're especially interested in, and then we can just go out and grab them.
And then I saw online that on GoodReads, there already is a bookshelf with all of the books mentioned in this book, and there are 172 book recommendations in this book. So if you
That is impressive.
Yeah, so she does mention reading a lot. So Chris was not exaggerating.
No,
there.
I wasn't exaggerating. Like, okay, so this book is journal style format, right? So you're given dates of things, and it goes from like, okay, I'm going to borrow these 8 books, and then like 2 days later, I returned all 8 books. It's like, wow, you read a lot. I can't fathom reading that fast.
And she's going to an all-girls school at this point. So, I mean, she actually has classes she has to attend during the day, but still, she burns through all of these books.
So this book was actually a semi-autobiography, a very fantasticalized autobiography by the author, Joe Walton. We actually reached out to Joe Walton and, I just asked her what her experience was writing this book, and she responded, which I think we all did a little happy dance.
Thank you so much. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Yes, thank you, Joe. We asked her specifically what her favorite part was. And that could have been her actual favorite part of the book. It could have been the writing process. It could have been anything. And she said the best answer that I can think of. My favorite part of Among Others is learning that I'm not as weird as I thought I was. That's an odd thing to learn in, my late 40s when the book came out? Readers responded to Mori as a character overwhelmingly by saying they were like her. Not that she was very peculiar, but that they saw themselves in her. And as she's based on me at that age in many ways, that means I'm not as weird as I thought. Neat thing to discover from a book that is a mythologization of part of my life. Thank you so much, Joe, for that insight into your world, because it's very difficult to put yourself out there like that and to have such great feedback. I can't even imagine what that would have felt like.
I don't remember who said it, but there was someone who said the sign that you, when you want to write a book, you want to put yourself into the book. And once you think that you've shared just a little too much, just a hair too much, that's what will make a good book. You just want to get right to that edge of being a little too much. And that's what this book really did feel like, because there's a lot of very vulnerable moments, a lot of weirdness, and and that's good. That and you can really connect with those weird kind of kids. I know I was a lonely kid growing up.
Yeah, there's a lot of naivete.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of naive moments that I'm sure we could all look back into our own lives and from this, exactly, and from where we are now with this perspective, look back and think how maybe foolish or embarrassing or any other sort of feeling. And it was interesting to get like a fresh, living it in the moment with this character, where you can look back at your own experiences. And, even though this is a girl in the 70s, I'm like, oh, you know what? The experience of that awkwardness of growing up is the same.
Hey, I mean, I can cheers to that. What are we cheersing, Chris?
Oh yeah. So we do have a themed drink for this one called Mori's Magic. So this is our take on a perfect martini. We've got 1.5 ounces of basil vodka. We've got 3/4 ounce of dry vermouth, 3/4 ounce sweet vermouth, a couple dashes of lavender bitters, and then we garnish with some sage leaves. So we put all that together into a nice little martini glass. It came out gold with a little leaf on top, and it looked excellent, and I think it tasted great.
I feel like this has a great mixture of the perfection that she sees at the school that she goes to, that she feels a little bit confined by, and she escapes to the woods to get that more herbal, more natural vibe.
Connection with nature again.
Mm-hmm. And that's when she feels most influenced to do her magic, which is why we ended up calling it Mori's Magic. It was an escape to the woods from the confines of perfection. And I think that we did a pretty good job of making that happen.
Yeah, it's so refreshing, and it's so like herbaceous.
Yeah. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
I wanted to mention that even though this is a fantasy book, it is like kind of nonfiction, I suppose, in a way, because it is written as journal entries. And it kind of took us all by surprise, because so far this year in our podcast, we've only been reading kind of very far out fantasy books that it was very humbling to dive into this and start reading these journal entries. And all of us, I'm sure, had our own flashbacks at our awkwardness at that age, because it starts out as the characters being Morwenna and her sister being like 10, and then it jumps to the next chapter where she's 15, around that age group. And I just felt like it was kind of like shocking, but in a good way. And it brought the fantasy to a very more like realistic approach.
So this was like a fairy tale in that, I mean, there's fairies in it, right? But it's more real than other ones that we've seen. It's like, this could actually be true.
You can see yourself in the world that they're talking about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where it's like, you think about it and you're like, well, what if I just don't know about it?
Yeah.
What if there's a world around me that I just don't know, I can't see any longer or anything like that?
Or that I forgot, because everything else is real except this one little aspect.
Right.
So,
well, they talk about the fact that people forget that fairies exist once they reach a certain age, once they age out of it, basically.
Stop believing.
Yeah, in a lot the same way that, all of us have experienced
Santa Claus.
You used to believe in certain things, and then you realize, like, oh, well, Santa Claus was dad, and the Tooth Fairy was mom, and the Easter Bunny,
didn't actually go on a nice vacation.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
No, what? What was your childhood like?
They slaughtered rabbits. That's what I just heard.
No.
Made a nice stew.
Okay.
I bet, though. But anyways, the point being, though, that this is a believable world And this is a believable mindset for a child to have, that there are fairies out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But she's not a child. She's 15. She's solidly a teenager.
And she solidly believes in these fairies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there are people that she's grown up with that has also seen the fairies and believed in them, and they've grown out of it and they no longer see them. And she's just like, why me? So I think it has to do with her family. And we had briefly mentioned
Evil mom.
her evil mom. I think we didn't touch on that again.
Yeah, so evil.
She is extremely evil. She's an evil bitch.
Well,
We
from
think
her perspective.
From the main character's perspective, because this whole story is told through the journals of the main character, Mori. She perceives her mother to be an evil mother, an evil witch, in fact, and
Right.
that's not witch the way my grandma means it, as in like trying to avoid using certain words. Like, no, like literally a magical witch.
Yeah, like she's trying to be Sauron. Like that was one of the comparisons she made at one point. She's trying to be the evil person that takes over the world.
And I want to put it out there that all of us have read just the first half of this book, and that is not clarified yet. We still don't know what's going on.
So they
We've
start
read up
off.
to just to toss this in there really quick. We've read up to page 151. So if anything happens after that, and you already know that because you finished the book, bear with us. Next episode, we'll catch up to you. But we're only going to be talking about topics and themes and content that goes up to page 151.
December 9th, 1979.
2 days before my birthday.
Ooh. But yeah, as somebody who completely avoids anything that has to do with reality or any sort of non-fictional books or anything like that, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like kind of shocked because this is like a little like hitting too close. I'm not like hitting too close to home, but hitting too close to reality. And I do not want to deal with reality. So as a reader. And
Well, luckily this is far enough away. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's like 1, London, 2, 1979.
Yeah.
I mean, probably
So it
probably
definitely-
before you were born.
I mean, I like when I read this book, I really enjoyed it, which was surprising because like I said previously. So yeah, it's not, I don't want to like discourage any readers that are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to read a journal and then have there be fairies and that's the only fantastical thing about it. It's like, no, I, as just a purely fictional reader, I really enjoyed this book. It was comforting in a way. Whereas like I could like bridge the gap to reading kind of like a non-fictional or like, I guess, fiction, but about real life.
So I don't know that I'm allowed to even say this. And this, I think, ties in, the fact that I feel this way, I think ties into a lot of themes of the book. But I really related to the main character. When I was growing up, I read a ton of books. And I don't know if we've mentioned yet, but this girl reads books like it's going out of style.
A lot of books.
How many books?
A lot of books.
Well,
So-
what's half of 172?
I think she's read most of those by now.
Oh, okay.
Well, she's mentioned so
mentioned.
many books.
Yeah.
She almost
No.
bankrupted that library system just getting like the inner library transfers.
Right?
Yeah, this is something I could see Kelly doing, like just walking in with her list that's like literally on a single piece of paper that just happens to be like 4 meters long. Be like, I would like to rent these books.
Well, when I was growing up, when I was her age, actually, and before, I would read constantly, obnoxiously. They describe in this book that she will wake up early and be reading during classes, and then be reading in between classes, and then she didn't have to go to a PE because she was injured in a car accident. So she was reading instead of going to PE. And then after dinner and classes were over, she would just read through the night. And that is very similar to the way that I was when I was younger. I would read constantly. I think, Danny, I was telling you the other day, like, I wish I could remember what this field trip was. It was when I was in Catholic school. So the class was 31 people. and 30 of them went on a went on a field trip of some kind. And I almost guarantee that it was I got the signature page, the permission slip, and just didn't get it signed because I was probably too busy reading to bother with it. And so they all went on this field trip. Who knows where they went? And I got stuck with the grade below me, just kind of hanging out and doing whatever BS, like fill out this paper sheet, whatever. And so I literally brought, for this one day of class, 7 books with me, fully intending to finish them. Like,
all in a day's work.
so, like, what a jerk. But I mean, I relate to her being a bored and lonely child, just wanting to fill the time with another world and just absorb other worlds for a little bit. The reason that I feel like I'm not allowed to say that, though, is her upbringing and family and situation is entirely different than mine growing up. She has a very unreliable family. She ran away from her mentally ill mother to go and live with her father, who she hasn't seen since he ran away.
He abandoned the family when they were kids.
Yeah.
Broken house.
She has a long list of family members that she had previously felt. She goes on for a couple of pages talking about how proud she was of all of these different family members and their life stories, and kind of ends that segment with, but they didn't believe my mother was mentally ill, so they would not step in to help. So I had to take it upon myself to call social services and escape. So, like, she was let down by her mom. She was let down by the rest of her family. She's living with this dad she doesn't know. And right when she moved in with the dad that she doesn't know, that she ran away to, surprise,
They sent her to boarding
they
school.
ship her off to boarding school. So, I mean, it makes sense that she's trying to escape in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in that same situation. I just was real bad at making friends.
And I think that's okay. I think that you're like, I don't think you need a traumatic past to be a 1, awkward, 2, lonely, and 3, bad at making friends. I was awkward and lonely and bad at making friends. I don't think I had a terribly bad childhood, but then again, I can't remember it because of a car accident when I was young that wiped my memory. But aside from that, you don't need a traumatic backstory.
Traumatic backstory, says the person with a traumatic backstory.
How very convenient that a car accident wiped your memory.
Yeah, it wasn't traumatic. I mean, trauma is one thing, but like if you don't remember anything, is it really trauma? That's a chicken or the egg kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Is the
yes.
answer.
Yes is the answer to that. I have been corrected, but also I know plenty of people who were awkward people growing up that did not have traumatic backstory. You're allowed to have just being an awkward, lonely kid. We give you permission, world.
Oh.
Be awkward, be lonely,
There's
be
nothing wrong with
awesome,
that.
and read books.
But it definitely made this story feel more personal because I kind of understood why she was doing what she was doing. We'll talk about what ends up happening a little bit later, but I'm not sure that I completely...
I don't know if I
I don't
believe in
know.
fairies.
Yeah, the fairy thing makes sense to me. I'm not sure if I believe them, but I get it.
Yeah,
You
there's this underlying theme in the book that is overarching the whole thing. It's the back of your mind. Like you're taking everything on the word of the author, or not the author, the author of the journal, right? More.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, are the fairies actually there, or is this just underlying trauma that is resurfacing? Are these fairies really there?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I think another thing that kind of hinted at me in that direction was the way the magic system works. So the way the magic works in this world is it makes chains of events that cause something to happen. It's non-linear and it's causal. So it basically says, I wish for something to happen. I use my magic to make it happen. Well, something way back like 2 years ago has happened that causes this chain of events that led up to that actually happening. So
it's all word of mouth by the fairies too.
Yeah.
Before, I feel like that makes sense to us because we read the book. But can you kind of like give an example of that situation? Like,
how about the first chapter?
Oh,
give a wish example and tell me how it plays out.
Sure.
That's what I want to hear.
So say I am. Okay, well, they have some good examples in the book, but I'm gonna just come up with one on the fly.
Oh, okay.
So say I'm a Shadowrun guy, and and I need to blow up a gas station, right? Because that can happen. I'm going to cast Fireball, but instead of Fireball, I just make the magic happen that I say I want to blow up the gas station. And what happens is that, earlier in this day, this guy got into his car, but as he was getting into this car, a dog bit him on the leg. And so he got really mad. And so he was like, the dog bit me on the leg. And he got into his car and he's driving towards me at this very instant. And his leg's starting to hurt. So he looks down and he looks at, and he's like, oh man, my pants are ripped. But he's looking down for just long enough that he swerves off the side of the road into the gas station and explodes. Now, I cast a spell in that moment, but did that magic cause the dog to bite the human? What caused the dog to bite the human? So it just keeps chaining backwards. Maybe the dog didn't have any food. Why didn't the dog have food? Because its owner maybe died, right? And then you can go really dark with it, or it could just run away, right?
Well, I think you don't have to go too far back on that because you went back far enough for this to make sense. But basically the magic works so that when the person makes the wish, basically asks the fairies for a favor is essentially what's happening. That thing will happen in a way that you can't necessarily predict. There may be consequences associated with it, and the way that that thing that you wish for comes to light could technically be explained by something that is already happening naturally.
Yeah, I have a quote from that. It's, you can almost always find a chain of coincidence to disprove magic.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like, it gets me thinking, okay, well, you can always disprove magic, and we have a very point of view character who is the narrator. So how reliable is the narrator, and how reliable is the magic and the fairies?
Yeah, that's one of the questions that I had asked. If you thought that the magic and fairies were real, or if it was like a metaphor to explain like the tragic things that she was going through, like we mentioned earlier. And then those were just coincidences and there's no magic at all. And I was thinking of like the movie, The Life of Pi. Oh, I saw the movie, but there's a book, The Life of Pi, where there's a very traumatic event that happens and the child escapes a ship sinking. Spoiler alert for this movie / book. The child's family is traveling on a ship to another country, and it's a zoo from, I think it's from India. Hope I'm not wrong. And they're vegetarian. They're on the ship, and the cooks and stuff are not vegetarian. They're like serving food on this ship for days and days that is not vegetarian for them. And they have all their zoo animals on this ship because they're going to another country to start their zoo there. It ends up sinking into the ocean, and all the animals are drowning. And the son gets, the main character, who's a little boy at the time, he ends up getting saved on the ship with a tiger and an ape and I think another animal. And it ends up where the lion eats the ape, and he ends up like going on this other like island. I don't want to like spoil the whole movie, but essentially those were not animals on the ship. And it was about all this like violence that had happened for them surviving. And it was like this tragic event. And he had created in his mind this completely different story involving these zoo animals taking the places of the humans instead.
Oh,
so I was thinking that this was like very much like
Okay.
situation.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know if
like
you-
substitution or like making something that makes the world make sense.
Make it make sense.
Because she's very traumatized, right? So she's, like we said earlier, she's got a bum leg at this point, completely crippled, and her sister, twin sister, dead.
And she blames the mom.
Yeah. And there, so like clearly has gone through some shit. So is this trauma and just trauma manifesting, or is it actually magic?
We know that she ran away from her mom because she considers her mom to be evil. She shows up at her dad's house. Her dad lives with his rich sisters, and they send her to school. So her situation at school, what's that like?
She gets to school and she is immediately on the offense. Like she has a strategy and she is not going to. It's almost antagonistic. Like, and I mean, I understand why if you're that age, and I mean, you're getting picked on just for anything, and she has plenty, so I can see why.
Yeah, she's Welsh in a London school, so they're already picking on her.
Which is something that I actually didn't know until they explains it in the book. But apparently the Welsh people and the English people don't get along.
My voice, which was posh for the valleys, was immediately marked my class origins to everyone. There brands me as an outlander barbarian. And then she further comments on, I must do what I can to befriend the fellow barbarians.
And so she goes and finds the one Jewish kid, the one... Deirdre has something else going on with her.
She's like Irish, isn't she?
Yeah, the one Irish kid.
And one of them's really poor.
Yeah. So she
Yeah. I think
goes
that's
and
her,
finds the
yeah.
other misfits and tries to befriend them. And Tim with mixed results, but, you know, you got to do what you can. But almost right when she gets there, like kind of like what Juan was saying, before she even tries to meet anybody, she's antagonistic. Because one of the things, and I'm not sure how much we're going to really want to talk about this, but I did want to bring it up, was the aesthetics of things, where everything that she was seeing looked beautiful objectively, with an undercurrent of falling apart / death / decay. So she went and met her father's family, and they are rich and posh and proper, but the aunts don't do anything. They're kind of useless. She goes to this school, and it's this beautiful Victorian masterpiece as you're driving up.
That's well renowned from like even like her aunts had gone there and they're like proud that they went there.
Picturesque
But
cows.
They do not actually like encourage schooling.
No, so as she's driving up, she mentions the dying elms, which is we should talk about later, and the gravel is like just crackling sadly under the tires of the cars as they're driving up, and they get inside and it's musty and it smells, and they tell her right off the bat, okay, here's your list of classes. You can either take biology or chemistry. You must take religion and
A bunch of sports
PE
and stuff.
like
Yeah.
you must take the arts and the sports and the blah blah blah, and the other classes, the ones that actually teach you something, maybe.
She had to argue for chemistry or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And so it was an interesting mix of like appearances are more important to the world that she lives in than
brains.
function.
And that
Substance.
That
Yeah.
kind of
Yes.
follows suit through a lot of the book.
Yeah.
Through like all of the classmates, like perception is more important than reality.
Right.
Like there's a whole gift giving process that happens every day, and it's weird.
And they're always so enamored by like looking
Cars.
at what the parents are driving, how they're dressed, and what cars the parents drive to like.
What? You can't talk about money because that's taboo.
Just like in real life.
Yeah. Oh, what car do you drive? A gray one. So
Another thing I connected to, because I am not a car person. So when she was like, I don't know what my parents drive. It's a car, it's a color. And
Yeah.
all of her classmates are just kind of like,
how can you not know?
okay.
That's what determines your status here at the school.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a whole like high school political thing going on where you give buns to certain people for certain reasons, but our main character doesn't actually realize what that political motivation is until almost halfway through the book.
So we've talked about the school that she's going to and the like kind of physical aspects of this. Let's talk about the fairies a little bit. We haven't really touched on them very much, and I think it is an important part because she believes fairies are real, magic's real. These are given laws that nature has.
She
right?
literally says it would be insane for me to not believe in fairies.
Right. So the way that she describes fairies, so we've described magic, how it's kind of causal and works backwards. And so fairies are described as they know a lot, but they can't do a lot. They can't interact at all with the real world. They can't affect things. They have to get other people to do it for them. So fairies can't do anything. They can just kind of be there and tell you what to do. And then she talks about how how unsatisfactory it is to talk to a fairy, where it's very unsatisfactory to write down a conversation with the fairy. Either I put it in proper words, which really is making it up, or I try to represent something that's only partly in words and just a few words. If I write it down like instantly, then it is a lie. I'm saying what I would have wanted him to say. In fact, what he said was few words and a whole lot of feeling to go with it. So,
It's an interpretation.
Right. So not only are the fairies an interpretation, but they can't physically affect the world at all.
Yeah, and it really reminded me of almost trying to explain to somebody a dream you had, that you can see it in your head, but it's impossible to put it into words for some reason. Like I can almost relive the dream, but when I'm trying to explain it, I'm like, no, that's not, like, it is an approximation, but it is not, like, it's not even like the translate. You're trying to translate it, but there is no language for it. It's like, I wish I could just share what I have in my head with you, because
Get
there
a
is
projector.
no way.
Like a Vulcan mind meld.
Yeah.
It's like you see my thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. But it's almost that, like, where you experience something and it's like, there isn't language enough for it. Like I can speak two languages, and sometimes it's like, this is the closest you get to what it is in this other language. But this is like, there's like less dimension to this, where it's like, I can give you the gist of it, but that's about as close as it's going to get.
I did also want to point out that all the fairies also speak Welsh, only exclusively. Even the ones in London only speak Welsh. So it's kind of weird as well, because what she does call out, like, what do the fairies in America speak, and how do they talk to people? So that was kind of weird.
The New York accent.
Yeah, the New York accent, but Welsh as well. How do you do Welsh in a New York accent? I don't even want to know. But yeah, it's like you don't have enough language for the words, and you have to do all the actions that the fairies want you to do in order to either do magic or do something else. But fairies are everywhere. She sees them everywhere, and she, like, when she's at the elm tree, she sees one little one in the bush, and they're all different, right? Every one of them's different.
When I was reading that part of it, and sort of like the gentleness with which they interact with the world, it's the way that, like, nature behaves. And I guess if you believe in fairies and the way that they're supposed to, like, exist in the world is much the same way that nature exists. That nothing drastic happens in nature immediately. It's very gentle. Like this thing nudges that thing, and there just isn't anything drastic. And these fairies are almost the same way. They're not pushing somebody out of the way of a speeding bus. They're just waving. They're just waving the grass a little bit.
If you want change, I can tell you how to make that change, but we can't physically do it.
Yeah, and a butterfly's like coming by, and it's like just blows a little bit of wind in the butterfly's wings, and butterfly goes, "Oh, I'm gonna land on this plant." Like it's just little, like they just interact a little bit with their surroundings, and
I think they actually no. I feel like they don't, because they do interact with more. Like they have a relationship with her. Like in the instance where she is trying to seek out fairies in outside of her university, and she tries to communicate with one of them, and it like freaks out at her, and it's like, find danger, and it runs away from her, and it's like kind of like freaking out. And she was like, okay, that was weird. And then the next morning she gets a letter from her mother, and she's like, oh, well, I found out what that fairy meant by find and danger by getting a letter from her mother, her evil mother. And there was something evil inside.
Because she hadn't told her mother where she was going to be. Mm-mm. And right after the fairy says, find danger, Mom found her. And
because she reached out to
Mom's
the
very
fairies.
presence is dangerous to Mori.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, the fairy's prophecy was fulfilled. And the mom ends up sending her this letter with a picture in it of her sister, and it's of her sister and her, not the mother. It's of Mori and Mori's twin, and the sister is not facing the camera, so you can't even see her face, and our main character is burned out of the photo, which is very ominous and shady.
Ominous and shady
Yeah.
are like really funny words to me. They're so different, but it makes total sense right now.
So one of the things that she brings up is like, okay, maybe me speaking with the fairy caused the magic to work backwards and then let her mom know where she was. So that way, the moment that happened, then her mom could find her. And so that's why she got the letter the next day, was the mom is in tune to the magic as well.
Versus like 7 days, like postal system.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And part of that could be that the fairy made that happen, but another part of it could be because she believes that her mom is an evil witch, that the mom is in tune to the magic system and sensed Mori talking to the fairy, and that kind of like just pinged off an alert to her mom, and her mom found her that way, is what I think Mori was thinking happened.
Okay, so the mom is blackmailing Mori. The reason why we are interchangeably calling her Mor and Mori is because both of the twins were called Mor, because they're identical and no one could tell them apart. But also our main character, Mor, wants to become a famous writer. And she said once she becomes a big star that she's going to sign her name Mori Phelps, I think is what she was going to say. And so that's why we call her Mori, to kind of distinguish her, because that's kind of how she sees herself. So it's hard but she is called Mor. So yeah, she keeps receiving letters from her mom, but she's actually being blackmailed by her mom because the mom wants her to write back to her. And she says, if you write to me, I will send you pictures of you and your sister, or I'll send you pictures of your sister, who is deceased at this point. And so she does, to get the pictures of her sister because she misses her. But then she is like, burnt out. And not just of the first letter, of all of them that like arrive afterwards, where she's now just like, she doesn't even want to open these letters to get that picture of her sister because she's burnt out of those pictures as well. And that's like, I was kind of wondering, like, was her twin even real? Like, what is real in this book? Is anything real? Like, is her sister real? Is that just her, like, of a past, like, I don't know, like, maybe is that what she saw herself as?
Oh, I'm pretty sure the twin was real.
Okay.
Because remember, there was the paramedics and everything. Like,
I don't know.
So
I don't remember the paramedics.
I don't remember.
Oh
the
yeah,
paramedics.
there's a
Yeah.
flashback scene
where they had to like pull her off of her sister.
Yeah, so like this is when
Oh, yeah.
the
I
event
do.
happened,
Yeah.
right? They reveal that an event happened, and like the sister's dead, and Moore has a crippled leg, and the paramedics come and pull Moore off of the sister, and then the mom gets to go away with the sister, and the mom is
Smile.
smiling.
Yeah, I remember that part.
So she's left there, not going to the hospital with a bum leg now, and apparently that is the event that stopped the mom, which we don't know that much about, but it's the event that stopped the mom from becoming the evil queen of the world. So she believes she saved the world at this point, and nobody knows.
In the
Right.
expense of her sister losing her life and her losing her ability.
And they were both willing to die for this.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Right.
be clear, both of them were like, yeah, we need to do this because otherwise bad stuff. So yeah, that's weird.
We don't know what that is, what that specific instance is.
One thing that draws me to this book a little bit is how we're learning bits and pieces as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like big events are happening. It's like mundane crap is happening, like puberty. And you're learning as you go.
But you still want to know what happened
Like she's
before.
like, oh yeah, I talked to the fairies, but also I couldn't get the book this time because my leg hurt. And it's like, I don't care about that. I want to know more about the fairies and the magic. And she's like, it's about the same on an equal footing.
Yeah, and you figure that's her everyday experience, or she is so certain that these things are real. It would be no different than us like seeing birds. Oh, well, sometimes they're just it's winter, so those birds aren't here right now.
Except that birds all look the same. A seagull looks like a seagull looks like a seagull, but a fairy will never look the same as another fairy at all.
Excuse me, they look the same to you, but
That's true.
to the trained eye, I can tell a seagull apart from any other seagull.
Are you well trained in bird law?
No, I dropped out.
Okay, so what do you mean by all the fairies are different looking?
Yeah, that is actually a really good point because they do keep
I
bringing
just
that up.
remember, I remember the one where they're talking about the penis that was like as big as the
I
size
know.
of the fairy.
They're like, you can't tell the gender of a fairy unless it has huge flowing hair with beautiful flowers or a huge old
Dang-a-lang.
dang-a-lang that's as big as it is.
See, I
knows?
must have glossed over that one too.
Did you skip a
How
page?
could you?
I mean, I must have because
I like eagle-eyed into that part. Like, I'm sorry, what? Let's read it 5 more times. Okay.
See, I remember them saying that they all look different, and then you brought up the dong as big as the fairy, and I was like, wait, I missed something.
No, I remember that part because I reread it. I was like, wait a minute, did that just say what it? Yeah, it did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I've
and they
ripped
have
that
some
page out
sort
of the
of,
book.
so the way that they look, some of them look
saving it for
like
later.
they have like tree bark skin. Some of them look kind of like animals. Some look like nothing at all. And you could only tell that they're a living thing because their eyes are moving around. So the main character, another main character that we had briefly mentioned, that's a fairy,
Glorfindel.
Glorfindel. He is an attractive fairy, which
yeah.
is kind of unusual.
Very humanoid,
Yeah.
and she describes him a lot like a lot of fantasy books describe the male love interest.
Like with the shirt unbuttoned and the chest hair showing and the pecs and the huge muscles. And no, I'm just
He's
kidding.
got
wind
a
flowing through his
flowing
hair.
cape, and he's very handsome, and she feels some kind of way about it.
And he knows. He's like, girl, I see you looking at me, and I look at you while you look at me, and then I'm looking at you, and then yeah.
Look at your man. Look at me.
I mean, I'm looking at me too, but
I'm in a tree. But what I thought was interesting is she makes a big point earlier before we meet Glorfindel. Before we meet Glorf,
Glorfindel.
she makes a big deal about how fairies don't really like speaking the language very much. They'll say like bits and phrases. They'll say a single word or a handful of words, but they don't really speak like we do. They don't like names. She makes a specific point of saying like a couple of times. And then we meet this Glorfindel who has a very humanoid figure, has a name, speaks in full sentences and also conversations, seeks her out where usually she has to go and seek out the fairies. So he's certainly a fairy. She makes a good point of saying he is a fairy, but he is such an extreme outlier that it makes me question the concepts of fairies entirely. I would have believed her if they had all been the kind of amalgamations of all these crazy shapes, and sometimes they can talk to her, but they do the like danger and run. But since this one, she has a history with this one. She knows him well. She has an attraction to him. They have a camaraderie. So on Halloween, she is visiting her family. She has left the school. She's visiting her family in Wales. She sneaks off to the woods on Halloween night because Glorfindel told her to. And she meets up with Glorfindel, and she sets out this little labyrinth of leaves leading up to some trees, like some portal to the other realm, which of course is Halloween, so we know, like, that's a portal for the dead. So a bunch of dead people come to her. She's hanging out. She's getting bored. She's hanging out with Glorf, and they're just chit-chatting. But all of a sudden, all of these souls come to her. And one of them, unexpectedly, is her twin. And she was not ready for this emotionally and didn't know how to handle it. And he basically tells her, like, all of these dead people are trying to get through the portal that you just opened.
To the other side.
Let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Let all of them go. And she lets one after another go, but she sees her sister and she just is so guilt-filled that she is having trouble taking a step back and letting her sister go through the trees.
And so the sister gets stuck.
We don't know.
Well, the sister doesn't get to go.
The sister doesn't. So she was like wondering. She was like, "Oh, what about more?" Like,
does she have to wait another year?
Because the sun started to come up, the portal like closed essentially, and she's like, "What about more? Does she have to wait a whole nother year?"
But we don't know.
Yeah.
In that same 2-day period, the 30th and 31st of October, we find out that her mother's plan was to actually control all the fairies and all the magic. That's what Glorfindel
was talking about.
Was like how they thwarted her mother from controlling all of everything, and it would be almost. I think she said something along the lines of it would be almost as if no one knew anything happened, but all of a sudden this one woman is in control of everything.
That's how I feel like the fairies operate. It's that nobody would notice them, and like you said, nobody would notice that somebody else, there's a new regime other than the person controlling them. Like she
because the mom, her whole goal is to have people adore her, and so basically, if she did gain power, like kind of in the way where nobody believed more that she was insane, I feel like the mom has a certain power over her family, and now hopefully more people that to listen to her.
Yeah, like increase her influence, but in such a subtle way that it's almost like that she's the only one in on it.
Right.
Like she can kick back in her rocking chair and kind of
be evil.
Have a half smile knowing that, she's in control of all of this, even though there isn't she's not shooting Hadoukens at people. Like she doesn't have that kind of magic, but it's very subtle, and she knows she's the one that's in control of all of it.
Like she's at the school for a little while, and she basically wants a cadre of people to be around her. A karass is what she calls it, right? And I had to look up that word because I didn't know what that meant. And so she cast a spell to find a karass. She wants to find her people. And then it causes her to get invited to the sci-fi book club, which is a cool thing to be invited to.
Yeah.
But then she immediately goes on this spiral of, well, how many lives did magic change to make that happen just for my one wish? Would this person even like me? And she starts getting on these things of like, do these people like me because of me, or do they like me because the magic made them like me?
Yeah.
I think that's something that's super relatable to anybody, though, where you get that kind of like, do they really like me, or are they liking me to my face because they don't want to hurt my feelings kind of vibe, you know?
Yeah, and it's like that, but on an extreme level of like, there's an external force that isn't religion, it's magic. And this external force might have forced them to like me. And so can I really trust that?
Right. What were the consequences?
Of me having a good time.
Right. So I experienced something positive, but what were the consequences to everyone else for that?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking at a vacuum, and if mine is net positive, then who had to suffer for that?
It's like a zero-sum game. Like,
right.
Like everyone, like these people must have been pulled in this direction. What are they missing out of their lives because I was so selfish to want a group of people to hang out with?
Or they also wish for the same thing. And it just so happens that here is the intersection of all those wishes.
Yeah,
But I don't think she sees it that way.
No, her opinion is like, oh yeah, I wanted this thing and I'm a horrible person. She's very negative. She's very down on herself.
Well, let's put this into perspective, though. This is after that wish happens, and the next day she gets invited to this sci-fi group. But this wish happens after 2 or 3 weeks of nobody speaking to her. Like, this girl is lonely. Like, we've been talking a lot about the fairies and the family and blah, blah, blah. We haven't talked at all about her social situation. She has 3 friends who stopped talking to her. She has nobody. The most social interaction she gets is the letters she writes to her dad, who she just met, who sent her off to this school. Like, this girl's situation hurts my heart a lot. And so for her to go out to the woods to have a wish to make friends, like that wish of I'd really like a caress. She's just looking for anybody to like her. That's so sad.
And then the guilt afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like, it was crushing to see that. And I kind of like, I started seeing it as like an imposter syndrome. Like because I've been doing this magic or whatever, they don't like me for who I am. Or it's just a matter of time before they see through all this.
I tricked them.
I must have tricked them into believing me, or I must have tricked them into liking me, or why would they like me in the first place?
They're going to find out.
They're going to find out.
You guys are, I don't know if like realist is the word, but I was like, I didn't really get, I guess I do see it now when you guys are talking about it, but when she had her caress and she was invited to the book club, I was ecstatic with her. I was just as excited as she was. And like her quote was like, a caress, epic. I could sing with delight. And I was just like, I've been there. I love whenever I meet anybody and they have read the same books I have, and I can just go on and on and on for hours. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you're so excited.
Mm-hmm. That was the first.
Yeah.
At first, yes, she was like that. But
I just like, I guess
as
I was
soon as the event ended, she started to question it.
Yeah. I mean, I did
and
read
so
the
we just kind of skipped past the fun part. but no, you are absolutely right. She makes her wish, and the next day it's granted, and she's so excited, and everything ends up working out. It seems like she might not be able to go to this event that she was invited to, but she was able to go. And people made huge sacrifices. They weren't huge, but she felt like it was a huge sacrifice.
Because she's not used to anybody ever doing anything for her. Yeah.
And they end up going to this event, and she makes friends.
So she finds this caress of people and also feels really guilty about it. But she finds this caress of people.
But she does have friends now.
And
so proud of her.
It's an interesting place for the book to have a halfway point, because now she's kind of starting to talk to a couple other people in this caress. The first meeting went swimmingly in the fact that she talked more than she should have. which was great, probably because she hasn't talked in 3 weeks. And then she, her legs started hurting and stuff like that. But she went to this book club and she's starting to talk to these people, and that's where we're at right now. Like she started getting nightmares about her mom coming after her.
Oh, as a sleep paralysis demon standing over her trying to kill her.
Yes, and so she's worried about that.
I would be too.
I mean, I don't want an evil hag-like lady hovering over me in the middle of the night while I can't move. That's honestly very terrifying.
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone's got their thing.
And so this is like dead of winter. Days are getting darker. We haven't quite hit the solstice, which I have a feeling is going to be a big day in this. I hope it's going to be a big day. But she's got a big imposter syndrome. Mother wants to be a dark queen, and that's really where we're leaving off, right?
Yeah.
So with all of that, what do you think happens next?
Ooh, I think we get to find out what the event was. Like, that's my main thing. I want to find out.
I hope so.
I hope so. I hope there's a payoff here. But I think that the mother is really evil. I think that the we're meant to have questions about it, but it's in the end, the mom's evil. The fairies do exist. Magic is real. She questions it. She questions magic for a little bit, but then comes back, and then but I don't think she gets a happy ending.
My prediction was along similar lines when I was thinking about this. I was like, there has to be some kind of like cancellation with the mom's evil intentions. But if she accomplishes her mission, I think that's the end of magic for her. I think that's the end of her seeing fairies. I don't think she will forget about it, but I think it would make sense to me that was the mission, and you get this until you've accomplished what it is that needed to happen. And after that, it just slowly becomes this memory, like a childhood memory of us believing in random things.
That's interesting.
I feel like she's going to thrive in this science fiction book club in so much as she gains friends, but I think that she's going to stop being able to rely on books so much. I think that the way that she has to face whatever demon she needs to face is going to require her to stop reading for a little bit. Because right now, I think that her biggest crutch is her books. I think that she's going to find that she has more support than she realizes in her friends that she doesn't truly trust, in her father, who I don't know that I would say you should trust this guy, but he has been more supportive than other members of her family in a lot of ways. And we've already seen some amount of support in the adult figures in her life. So I think that she's going to like find support in places that we might realize, but she doesn't expect, and she's going to have to give up books to do it. Not give up completely, but like put them down for a second. I'm not sure if fairies are real. I'm not sure if we're going to find a resolution to that.
What's your prediction, Danny?
Okay. My prediction is that I'm going to kind of do a blend, I guess. Her mom gets put in a mental institution or gets stopped at some point, however that is. And she graduates the university or the girls' school that she attends and goes on to become a university student, to become a writer like her dream is. And she does not see fairies after the point of her mom finally getting the help that her mom needs by being probably put in a mental institution, or something happens, Once that relationship is over with her mom, she stops seeing the fairies and she moves on with her life. becoming the writer that she wanted to be. And she signs her pen name Mori Phelps or whatever she wanted to. So that is my prediction.
Her pen name Joe Walton.
Yes.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
All right, so this is where we are folding the page corner. Next time, we'll finish up Among Others and talk about what's next on our bookshelf. You can buddy read with us on GoodReads and Instagram at Dog Ear Discourse, and view our reading schedule of the year on our website at dogeardiscourse.com. And thanks for joining today.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.